Earth stood united under a single government in the year 2150. After years of fighting ecological disasters, humans had finally created a stable world. Their technology had advanced quickly, and they had small colonies on Mars and Europa. People looked to the stars with hope instead of fear. The day everything changed began like any other at the United Earth Defense Command. Commander Hannah Park was reviewing mission reports when the alert came through. "Commander Park, we're detecting an unknown object approaching Earth orbit," said Lieutenant Chuo. "Classification?" Hannah asked, immediately alert. "Nothing we've ever seen before. It's massive." Within hours, the object revealed itself as a spacecraft of alien design. It positioned itself in Earth orbit and broadcast a message in perfect English. "People of Earth, we come in peace. We are representatives of the Galactic Conclave, a union of civilizations spanning this sector of the galaxy. We wish to establish diplomatic relations." The world erupted in a mixture of celebration and panic. After emergency meetings of the United Earth Council, Commander Park was selected to lead the first diplomatic mission to meet the aliens. "Why me?" she asked President Kim. "Because you're our best strategic mind," he replied. "If they're friendly, you'll forge a good relationship. If they're not, you'll see through it." 3 days later, Hannah and a small team boarded a shuttle that would take them to the alien vessel. The shuttle ride was silent, each member of the team lost in their own thoughts about being the first humans to officially meet extraterrestrial life. The Conclave ship was beyond anything they had imagined. Corridors that seemed to bend reality, materials that changed properties when touched, and gravity that adjusted automatically to the comfort of each species. They were escorted to a large chamber where representatives of the Conclave waited. Some looked almost human, while others were so alien that Hannah's mind struggled to make sense of their forms. One stepped forward, humanoid with silvery skin and eyes that changed color as he spoke. "I am Taman, representative of the Arcanian people, and your guide to the Conclave. Welcome." Over the next few weeks, Hannah and her team learned about the Conclave's history. 12 species had formed this alliance thousands of years ago. They shared technology, culture, and protected each other. They offered Earth a position as a developing member with access to certain technologies and knowledge. Hannah spent most of her time with Taman, who seemed genuinely fascinated by humans. "Your species is remarkable," he told her one day as they watched Earth from a viewing port. "Most take thousands of years to achieve what you've done in mere centuries." "We adapt quickly," Hannah said with pride. "Yes, adaptation." Taman's eyes shifted to a deep blue. "That is both your greatest strength and the reason some in the Conclave fear you. Fear us. We've barely left our solar system. It's not where you are, but how quickly you got there," Taman explained. Several council members, particularly the Drylon, believed that within a century, humans could advance beyond even our oldest members. Hannah laughed. "That's flattering, but surely an exaggeration." Taman didn't join her laughter. "Your species adapts remarkably quickly. Some find this concerning." That night, Hannah couldn't sleep. Something didn't feel right. She accessed the ship's public database and searched for information about the Drylon. What she found disturbed her, a species known for believing in their genetic superiority, with a history of containing potential threats. She immediately contacted Earth, recommending increased alert status for all defense forces. The transmission was intercepted. The next morning, Taman burst into her quarters, his skin pale. "You need to leave now. The Drylon have convinced enough of the Council that humanity represents a future threat. They're moving to contain Earth." "Contain? What does that mean?" Hannah demanded. "They will destroy your military capabilities and place Earth under Conclave control," Taman said, leading her team toward the shuttle bay. "I've arranged for your escape, but we must hurry." They had almost reached the shuttle when the ship shuddered. The viewing screens showed Drylon warships emerging from jump points near Earth. "Too late," Taman whispered. They watched in horror as the Drylon ships opened fire on Earth's orbital stations. Defense satellites exploded one after another. The orbital habitats, home to thousands of civilians, were cut in half by energy weapons. "This isn't containment," Hannah said, her voice shaking with rage. "This is an act of war." "I'm sorry," Taman said. "I tried to warn you." Hannah turned to her team. "We need to get back to Earth now. This is just the beginning." As their shuttle raced back to the planet, dodging debris and weapons fire, Hannah knew humanity faced its greatest challenge. But she also knew her species better than the Drillon did. They had made a terrible mistake. Humans didn't just adapt. When threatened, they evolved. And the Drillon had just threatened the entire human race. Alarms blared throughout Earth Defense Command as Admiral Junho Lee watched the holographic display with grim determination. Red dots representing Drillon warships surrounded Earth like hungry wolves. The first wave of attacks had destroyed most of Earth's orbital defenses and killed thousands. "Sir, we've lost contact with all lunar outposts," reported an officer, her voice shaking. "The Mars colony is requesting emergency instructions." Admiral Lee stood tall despite the chaos. He was an old military man who had fought in Earth's last wars before unification. His weathered face showed no fear, only resolve. "It's time," he said firmly. "Implement Protocol Thermopylae." The command center fell silent. Protocol Thermopylae was Earth's last resort defense plan, created for a scenario many had thought impossible: an overwhelming alien attack. "Send the signal to all remaining military assets," Lee ordered. "Tell Mars and Europa to activate their hidden manufacturing facilities. And get me Commander Park, if she's still alive." The protocol was simple yet desperate. Earth would appear to fall while secretly building its strength. Military forces would go underground. Hidden factories would work nonstop. Every piece of alien technology would be studied and copied. The first days were the darkest. Drillon ships bombarded military bases worldwide. Millions died in the initial assault. The aliens, seemingly satisfied with crippling Earth's visible defenses, established an orbital blockade rather than landing ground forces. "They think we're beaten," Admiral Lee told his surviving officers in an underground bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean. "They don't understand humans yet." 3 weeks after the initial attack, a small shuttle broke through the blockade using stolen Conclave stealth technology. Aboard was Commander Hannah Park and her team, who had been presumed dead. "Welcome back from the dead, Commander," Admiral Lee said when Hannah was brought to the command center. "The rumors of my death were useful," she replied with a tired smile. "We've brought something better than ourselves: information." For 6 weeks, Hannah had moved through the Conclave vessel gathering intelligence before escaping. She brought data disks, technical specifications, and most importantly, insights into how the alien alliance thought and fought. "They think in rigid patterns," she explained as she showed the Admiral tactical displays of Drillon fleet movements. "Their technological superiority has made them predictable. And predictable means vulnerable." While Earth appeared defeated, humanity was secretly preparing. On Mars and Europa, hidden manufacturing centers operated at full capacity. Scientists worked day and night to understand alien technology salvaged from debris. Dr. Soo-Min Kim led the research team on Europa. Once a theoretical physicist, she now focused entirely on practical applications. Her lab was built inside an ice cavern, using the moon's natural radiation shielding. "It's like they've never had to truly innovate," she told her team as they examined a damaged Drillon engine. "They've had this technology so long, they've forgotten how to think beyond it." After 3 months of non-stop work, surviving on stimulants and brief naps, Dr. Kim made the breakthrough. She stumbled into the command meeting, wild-eyed from exhaustion. "We've done it," she announced, placing a small device on the table. "The quantum displacement drive works." Admiral Lee looked skeptical. "Explain it simply, Doctor." "The Conclave uses jump technology to travel between stars. It's effective but limited. They can only jump to pre-calculated points," she explained. "Our quantum displacement system is different. It doesn't jump through space. It shifts the ship partially outside normal space, allowing movement that's unpredictable and untraceable. "Can it be weaponized?" asked Admiral Lee. Dr. Kim smiled. "It already has been. A ship with this drive can appear anywhere, attack, and vanish before the enemy registers what happened." The first prototype was installed on a small corvette named Ghost. Its test flight was observed anxiously by the military command. The ship's captain, Jiho, had been a racing pilot before the war. "Beginning displacement in 3, 2, 1. Jiho's voice came through the comms. The Ghost vanished from radar. 10 seconds later, it reappeared 50 kilometers away. "It works," shouted Dr. Kim, jumping up and down like a child. "And the Drillon won't see it coming." Within weeks, a small fleet of ships was equipped with the new drives. The humans named them the Ghost Fleet, vessels that could strike from nowhere and disappear before the enemy could respond. Admiral Lee summoned Commander Park to review the attack plan. "We start small," he explained. "Hit their patrol ships, then vanish. Make them nervous. Make them waste resources looking for us." Hana nodded. "They'll never expect us to counterattack so soon. Their arrogance is our advantage." 6 months after the initial invasion, humanity launched its first strike. 3 ghost ships appeared amidst a Drylon patrol, fired their weapons, and vanished. The confused aliens found only debris where their ships had been. In his command center, Admiral Lee allowed himself a small smile. "And so it begins. They thought Earth would fall easily, but they've never faced humans before. They think we're beaten." Hana agreed. "Let them keep thinking that, while we prepare to show them just how wrong they are." Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiance, watching the tactical display where 43 small dots represented Earth's entire offensive capability. 1 year of hiding, building, and planning had led to this moment. The quantum fleet was small but equipped with technology that even the Conclave couldn't match. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Captain Minho, his executive officer. Lee nodded, his weathered face showing little emotion though his heart raced. "Send the order. Operation Thunderstrike begins now." Throughout the fleet, captains received their orders. The plan was simple but daring. Strike the Drylon supply lines simultaneously across 12 different sectors. The aliens had grown complacent during their year-long blockade of Earth, never expecting the supposedly defeated humans to strike back. "Quantum displacement in 3, 2, 1, announced the navigation officer. The Defiance and its battle group seemed to shimmer before disappearing completely from normal space. The sensation was disconcerting. A moment of weightlessness, followed by a feeling of existing in 2 places at once. Then reality snapped back into focus, and they were deep in Drylon territory, facing a convoy of supply ships with minimal escorts. "They don't even have their shields up," muttered Lee. "Begin the attack." Earth ships appeared as if from nowhere around the Drylon convoy. Precise weapons fire disabled engines and weapons systems while avoiding cargo bolts. The Drylon, caught completely off guard, barely had time to send distress signals before being boarded by human strike teams. "Sir, all targets secured," reported Captain Minho 20 minutes later. "Minimal casualties on both sides. The cargo is ours." Similar reports came in from across the stars. In a single day, humanity had seized enough supplies to sustain their war effort for months, along with new Drylon technology to study. More importantly, they had shown the galaxy that Earth was far from defeated. The Conclave's response was swift but ineffective. Their patrol ships now traveled in larger groups, but they couldn't be everywhere at once. The quantum fleet struck like ghosts, appearing, attacking, and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. 3 months of hit-and-run attacks culminated in the decisive moment at Proxima Centauri. Intelligence had discovered that the Drylon were establishing a major forward base in humanity's nearest neighboring star system, a staging ground for a final assault on Earth. "We can't allow them to complete this base," Lee told his war council. "We need to hit them with everything we have." General Hana Park, recently promoted for her strategic brilliance, studied the intelligence reports. This is also an opportunity. The Drillon have committed nearly a third of their fleet to this project. If we can destroy those ships, it would cripple their offensive capabilities, finished Lee. But they'll be expecting us this time. Hannah smiled. Then we'll do what they don't expect. Instead of appearing and disappearing, we stay and fight. The battle began at 300 Earth Standard Time. The entire quantum fleet displaced into the Proxima Centauri system simultaneously, surrounding the half-built Drylon base. The aliens had indeed prepared defenses, but they had expected quick strikes followed by retreat, not a full engagement. "They're scrambling to respond," reported the sensor officer on the Defiance. "Their formation is breaking apart." Lee gave the order, "All ships, implement Battle Plan Chimera." What followed stunned the Drylon commanders. Human ships used their quantum drives not to flee but to rapidly change positions during battle, appearing behind enemy vessels, firing, then jumping to new locations before counterattacks could land. It was warfare in 3 dimensions, plus the dimension of probability. Ships existing in multiple potential locations at once. The Drillon fleet, trained in conventional space warfare, had no defense against such tactics. Their rigid battle formations fell apart as captains lost track of where to point their weapons. 6 hours later, the remains of the Drylon force retreated, leaving behind destroyed ships and an unfinished base the humans quickly claimed as their own. Standing amid the wreckage of the Drillon command center, Hannah found plans detailing the aliens' final solution for Earth: complete orbital bombardment to sterilize the planet. "They were never going to accept our surrender," she told Lee over a secure channel. "They were planning to exterminate us entirely." The news changed everything. The following day, representatives from Earth, Mars, and Europa met virtually to sign the Terran Alliance Charter, formally uniting all human settlements under one military and political command. "This is no longer just about survival," declared the newly formed Alliance Council. "We must ensure that no species ever again attempts to eliminate humanity." Meanwhile, Hannah had been working on another front. During her time on the Conclave vessel, she had learned that several member species were essentially vassals, forced to provide resources and troops while having little say in Conclave decisions. Using encrypted channels, she established contact with representatives of these oppressed species. "The Drillon claimed humans were dangerous because we adapt quickly," she told them in secret meetings. "They were right to fear us. We've adapted to their warfare in a single year. Join us, and together we can break the Conclave's hierarchy." One by one, representatives of the Fulari, the Novan Collective, and the Ixal Confederacy, all subjugated by the core Conclave powers, agreed to provide intelligence and, when the time was right, to rise up against their masters. As the Defiance returned to Earth orbit, Admiral Lee looked down at the planet he had sworn to protect. "For the first time since this war began," he told Hannah, "I believe we might actually win." "We'll do more than win," she replied. "We'll reshape the galaxy." Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the TSS Vengeance, the largest warship humans had ever built. Through the viewscreen, he watched as hundreds of ships gathered, the combined might of humanity's military forces and their new alien allies. "Fleet is assembled and ready, Admiral," reported Captain Minho. Lee nodded solemnly. 3 years of war had aged him. His hair had turned completely gray and lines had deepened on his face, but his eyes still burned with determination. "Begin Operation Spearhead," he ordered. The massive fleet jumped into quantum displacement, vanishing from Earth space. Their destination, the heart of Drylon territory. After years of defensive actions and surgical strikes, humanity was finally taking the fight directly to their enemy. On the TSS Liberty, General Hannah Park met with representatives of the Fulari, Novans, and Ixal, species that had lived under Conclave control for centuries. Once considered lesser members of the galactic community, they now saw humanity as their chance for freedom. "Today we strike simultaneously across 23 systems," Hannah explained, pointing to a holographic map. Your forces will disrupt Conclave control from within, while our fleets attack from without. Karu, the Filari representative, blinked his large eyes. My people have waited 300 years for this day. We will not fail. The coordinated assault began with precision. As human fleets appeared near major Drylon worlds, their alien allies sabotaged defense systems and communications networks. Planets that had never known rebellion suddenly found their conclave overseers under attack. The Drylon responded with brutal force, but for the first time, they were fighting on multiple fronts. Their once unbeatable fleets were scattered, responding to threats that appeared and disappeared across their territory. Admiral Lee's main force pushed deeper into enemy space than any human ships had gone before. They captured shipyards, supply depots, and strategic outposts. Each victory provided new technology to adapt and incorporate. The Drylon are falling back to their core systems, reported Intelligence Officer Gina. They're concentrating their remaining forces around Rigel. Lee studied the tactical display. Then that's where we'll deliver the decisive blow. The Rigel system was the industrial heart of Drylon territory. Its planets were ringed with shipyards and weapons factories. Taking it would cripple the Drylon's ability to continue the war. As human and allied ships prepared for the assault, General Park received an unexpected message. It was heavily encrypted and came through channels only she would recognize. Hana, this is Taman. I risk everything by contacting you. The conclave is fracturing. Many species now question the war against humanity. If you attack Rigel, millions will die on both sides. There is another way. Please respond. Hannah stared at the message for a long time. Taman had tried to warn her before the war began. Could she trust him now? But there was no time for diplomacy. The attack on Rigel had already been set in motion. The Battle of Rigel began with the largest quantum displacement ever attempted. 300 human ships and 200 allied vessels appeared simultaneously around the heavily fortified system. The Drylon were waiting with nearly their entire remaining fleet. They knew we were coming, muttered Lee as he surveyed the enemy formations. No matter. Commence attack pattern Omega. What followed was the most destructive battle in the war. Human ships used their quantum drives to execute impossible maneuvers, appearing inside enemy formations, firing and jumping away. The Drylon countered with overwhelming numbers and new weapons designed specifically to track quantum signatures. Ships on both sides exploded by the dozens. Debris fields grew so dense that conventional navigation became impossible. Pilots relied entirely on computer guidance as they flew through the chaos. On the ground, Filari and Novan rebels fought to capture key facilities. The space above Rigel's main planet became a graveyard of broken vessels from a dozen different species. After 18 hours of continuous fighting, Admiral Lee received the report he had been waiting for. Central shipyards secured. Weapons platforms neutralized. The Admiral allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction before ordering. All ships target the Drylon command carrier. End this. The massive Drylon flagship, surrounded by the remains of its escort fleet, fought desperately as human ships closed in. Its weapons lashed out, destroying several Terran vessels. But the outcome was inevitable. When the Drylon command carrier finally exploded, the remaining enemy ships began to retreat. The Battle of Rigel was over. Humanity had won, but at terrible cost. Nearly 40% of the Terran fleet had been destroyed or disabled. Millions of lives, human and alien, had been lost. As Lee surveyed the devastation from his damaged flagship, a priority message arrived from General Park. I've received communication from Conclave moderates seeking peace talks. Taman is acting as intermediary. They're willing to recognize Terran sovereignty and the independence of our allies. Lee looked out at the field of destruction surrounding his ship. The path to total victory lay open. With the Rigel shipyards captured, humanity could push all the way to the Drylon homeworld. But at what further cost? Before he could respond, another message arrived from Hannah. Taman says the hardliners are planning a final desperate strategy. We don't accept negotiations. They'll use planet-killer weapons on their own worlds rather than surrender them. Lee closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the decision. Tell Taman we're willing to talk, he finally replied. This destruction must end. As the remains of the Terran fleet regrouped, a small shuttle departed from the Liberty. Aboard was General Park, heading to a neutral location where the future of the galaxy would be decided. The neutral space station orbiting Alpha Centauri had once been a scientific outpost. Now it housed the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. For 2 months, representatives from Earth and the fractured conclave had been locked in difficult negotiations. General Hannah Park walked the circular corridor outside the main conference room, trying to clear her mind. The station's large windows showed both the beauty of the nearby star and the combined fleets keeping watch over the proceedings. Terran ships on one side, conclave vessels on the other. You look troubled, said a familiar voice. Hannah turned to see Taman approaching. His silver skin had dulled somewhat during the war years, and his eyes now stayed a consistent deep blue. 3 years ago, your people tried to destroy mine, she said. Now we're deciding the future of the galaxy together. It's a lot to process. The Drillon tried to destroy you, Taman corrected gently. Many of us opposed the war from the beginning. And yet it happened anyway. Yes, because our system was flawed. Taman gestured toward the conference room. That's why what you're doing in there matters so much. Inside, Admiral Lee was leading the human delegation in the final round of negotiations. The central point of contention had been the structure of whatever would replace the conclave. The old system granted power based on how long a species had been part of the conclave, Lee explained to the assembled delegates. This created a permanent hierarchy where newer members could never achieve equal standing. The Drillon representative, one of the few who had survived the war, hissed in disagreement. Age brings wisdom and stability. Your species has existed in space for barely a decade. You cannot expect equal voice with those who have traveled the stars for millennia. Yet it was those millennia-old systems that brought us to war, countered Lee. A war your people started, and one you lost. Silence fell across the chamber. The human admiral's words were harsh but true. The Drillon, once the dominant force in the conclave, now possessed less than a quarter of their former military strength. A representative of the Phileri, their fur standing on end with emotion, spoke next. For 3 centuries, my people provided resources, labor, and troops to the conclave, while having minimal say in decisions. The humans offered us partnership, not subjugation. That is why we chose to stand with them. One by one, representatives of the formerly oppressed species spoke in support of the human proposal. Even some of the older conclave members, seeing the way the galactic winds were blowing, indicated their willingness to accept a new order. After 14 hours of final debate, the Treaty of Alpha Centauri was ready. Its terms were revolutionary. The old conclave would be dissolved. In its place would rise the Galactic Assembly, where representation was based on current contribution to the common good rather than historical longevity. Earth and its colonies would form the core of a new political entity, the Terran Empire, but any world could join if they accepted its basic principles of self-determination and mutual defense. Former conclave technologies would be shared among all member species. No species would maintain separate military forces. Instead, a united galactic defense force would protect all members equally. As Lee signed the treaty with a steady hand, he exchanged a glance with Hannah. They had come so far from that terrible day when the Drillon ships first attacked Earth. Millions had died, including many they had personally known and loved. Yet out of that tragedy, something new was emerging. 3 weeks later, on a platform orbiting Earth, the formal ceremony establishing the Terran Empire took place. Representatives from 27 worlds attended, including former enemies and allies alike. Admiral Lee, now given the title of Imperial Guardian, stood before the assembled delegates. Age and war had weathered his face, but his voice remained strong as he addressed not just those present, but the billions watching across dozens of worlds. "We did not set out to build an empire," he began. "We were a single world, hoping to find friendship among the stars. Instead, we found threat and conflict. But humans have always been defined by how we respond to challenges." He gestured to the stars visible through the station's transparent dome. "Having been forced into war, we have emerged as architects of a more just galactic order. Not as conquerors, but as liberators and builders of a shared future among the stars." General Park, soon to depart as ambassador plenipotentiary to the new Galactic Assembly, watched the ceremony with mixed emotions. The war had cost so much, yet humans had not just survived. They had transformed the galaxy. That night, after the formal celebrations, Hannah found herself alone with Lee on an observation deck overlooking Earth. "Do you think it will last?" she asked quietly. "This peace we've built." Lee watched the blue planet turning slowly below them. "Nothing lasts forever, but we've created something better than what came before. The Drulon feared us because we adapt quickly. They were right to fear that ability, but wrong about what we would do with it. And what will we do with it? Build," he said simply. "Learn. Grow. Protect those who cannot protect themselves." As dawn broke over Earth, the first ships bearing the new Imperial insignia departed for distant stars. Humanity had fought its first galactic war and emerged not just victorious but transformed. The Terran Empire was born, not from dreams of conquest, but from necessity and the human spirit's endless ability to create opportunity from disaster. And in the endless night between the stars, countless species looked toward Earth with new hope for a better future.